By the autumn of 1718, the seas had grown restless under Blackbeard's shadow. Merchants whispered in terror, planters cursed his name, and colonies trembled as his sails were sighted on their horizons. Yet while some governors turned a blind eye, taking bribes to let the pirate live in uneasy peace, there was one man who would not be cowed. Alexander Spotswood, governor of Virginia. Drums, steady and foreboding, beneath the words. Narrator. Spotswood was determined to rid the coast of the black-hearted rogue once and for all, without the sanction of his own king, and without consulting the neighboring governor of North Carolina, where Blackbeard had made his lair. He took it upon himself to strike. He summoned 2 war sloops, the Ranger and the Jane, and placed them under the command of Lieutenant Robert Maynard, a hard-bitten officer of His Majesty's Navy. The sound of marching boots, creaking ropes, and cannon being loaded. Narrator. Maynard's orders were clear. Track down the pirate, corner him, and bring back his head. The men who signed on knew they hunted death itself, for Blackbeard was said to fight like a demon, with pistols strapped across his chest, knives at his belt, and slow-burning fuses woven into his wild black beard so that he seemed a man wreathed in fire. Thunder rolls faintly. A storm. Narrator's tone sharpens. Word came that the pirate lurked near Ocracoke Inlet, the shallow waters of North Carolina. There he lay at anchor, feasting, drinking, and plotting his next stroke of terror. Maynard sailed south with his sloops, guided by secrecy and the promise of reward. On the night of November the 21st, his ships crept into the narrow channel. The hunt was nearly done. Dawn broke upon the 22nd of November, 1718. The waters of Ocracoke lay calm, mist curling like smoke over the inlet. Blackbeard's sloop, the Adventure, sat at anchor, its crew heavy with drink from the night before. They awoke not to the call of gulls or the slap of tide, but to the sight of war sloops bearing down upon them, sails straining, guns primed. The sudden crash of cannons, smoke, and splintering wood. Narrator. Lieutenant Robert Maynard struck first, loosing broadsides that thundered across the channel. Blackbeard roared with fury, cutting his anchor cable, and ordered his men to fire. Cannonballs screamed through the air, tearing into Maynard's ships. Smoke blanketed the water, hiding friend from foe, until the 2 vessels ground together with the sound of iron against timber. Battle drums, shouts, clash of steel. Narrator. Urgent. From the choking haze stepped Blackbeard himself, a giant of a man towering, his beard braided and set alight with slow fuses that smoked about his face. Pistols hung across his chest like the teeth of a beast. He stormed Maynard's deck with cutlass drawn, bellowing like a demon out of hell. "Come on, dogs," he cried. "Who's brave enough to take me?" The clash of steel intensifies. Narrator. Maynard had laid a trap. He had kept most of his men hidden below deck. As Blackbeard and his pirates swarmed aboard, Maynard's hatch flew open, and soldiers burst forth with muskets, pistols, and cutlasses. The deck became a slaughterhouse. Gunfire roared, blades rang. Men screamed and fell into blood and foam. Silence, then a heartbeat. Narrator's voice, heavy, and there, at the center, Maynard met Blackbeard. Cutlass struck cutlass. Pistols fired and missed. The pirate roared with laughter, bleeding but unbroken. They circled, slashing, striking, the deck awash with gore. 5 musket balls pierced him. 20 cuts tore his flesh. Yet still he fought, his eyes blazing with fury. A final crash of steel, then silence. Narrator solemn. Only when Maynard's blade split his throat did the giant at last fall. Blackbeard staggered, dropped his sword, and collapsed upon the deck. For moments he lay there, still as stone, and then the terror of the seas was no more. Soft, mournful strings rise. Narrator. To prove his victory, Maynard severed the pirate's head and hung it from his bowsprit as a grim trophy. His body, it is said, was thrown into the waters of Ocracoke, where sailors swore they saw it swim thrice around the ship before sinking beneath the waves. Long pause. Narrator's voice, softer, reflective, So ended Edward Teach, Blackbeard, the most feared pirate of the age. He ruled the seas for but a few short years, yet in death his legend only grew. Even now, centuries later, his name lingers on the salt wind, whispered in harbors and taverns alike. The man who fought like the devil himself, and whose black shadow shall never wholly fade. The year is 1717, and the seas of the New World are ablaze with lawlessness. War has ended between empires, but for thousands of sailors cast adrift, peace brings only hunger. These men, once privateers, now turn their cannons upon all nations. They hoist the black flag, and the ocean itself becomes their kingdom. This is the golden age of piracy, and from its foam rose a man so dreaded, so fabled, that even now his name echoes across the centuries. Blackbeard, Edward Teach, or Thatch as some called him, was born around 1680 in Bristol, England, a port city of sailors, smugglers, and merchants. Of his childhood, little is known, save that the sea claimed him early. When war broke out between England and Spain, Teach sailed as a privateer, striking Spanish galleons with fury. But when peace came in 1713, the letters of marque expired. And for Teach, peace was no profit. Like many a hardened seaman, he turned to piracy. Sounds of gulls, waves, and shouting men. Nassau in the Bahamas became his cradle of infamy, a pirate republic, ruled by no king, where men drank, swore, and lived free of law. Here Teach fell under the command of Benjamin Hornigold, a fearsome buccaneer. Hornigold saw promise in the tall, broad-shouldered sailor, and entrusted him with his own sloop. In time, Teach's star eclipsed his master's. In 1717, fortune struck. Off the coast of Martinique, Teach seized a great French slaver, a ship of 300 tons, 40 guns strong. He refitted her, named her Queen Anne's Revenge, and with her his power grew monstrous. Teach became Blackbeard. He was a master of theater as much as of war. He tied slow fuses into his black beard, so that when he fought, his face glowed with sparks and smoke, a devil cloaked in fire. He strapped pistols across his chest, and with a booming laugh, he stormed decks like a tempest in human form. Merchants fled at the mere sight of his flag. Distant cannon fire and cries of panic. Nations cursed his name, but sailors whispered of him with awe. For though he was cruel in battle, many claimed he was not needlessly bloodthirsty. Fear was his weapon, and he wielded it well. Act 3, The Blockade of Charleston. Narrator. In May of 1718, Blackbeard dared what no pirate had before. He sailed to the very mouth of Charleston, South Carolina, a proud English colony, and blockaded the harbor. For nearly a week, no ship came nor went. He seized merchantmen, plundered their holds, and held passengers for ransom. His demand was not gold, nor silver, but medicine, for his crew lay sick. The governor had no choice but to yield, and Blackbeard sailed away laden with supplies and wealth. To the world, it was proof. Not even the might of England could cage him. Trumpets fade into ominous silence. But pride is a dangerous sail, and every wind must shift. Blackbeard soon ran his mighty Queen Anne's Revenge aground off North Carolina. Some whisper it was deliberate, to divide treasure among his chosen few. With but one sloop left, he sought pardon, and for a time lived ashore. But a wolf cannot become a lamb, and soon he hunted again, feasting, plundering, and terrorizing the coast. Act 4, The Final Hunt. The section you already heard. Governor Spotswood commissions Maynard to hunt him down. Ships creep into Ocracoke, and the trap is set. Act V, The Death of Blackbeard. As given. Dawn battle, smoke and fury, Blackbeard's final duel, his death, and the legend of his head upon the bowsprit. Epilogue, The Legend. Narrator, calm, reflective. Edward Teach ruled the seas for scarcely 2 years, yet his legend has outlived kings and empires. Some call him a devil, others a genius of fear. His beard, his fire, his terrible laughter, all have passed into myth. But the truth is this: he was a man of his age. A sailor forged in war, cast adrift by peace, and driven by hunger into the black flag's embrace. He was the terror of the colonies, the scourge of merchants, and the nightmare of governors. Even now, the waters of Ocracoke whisper his name. Some swear they see a phantom light, drifting on stormy nights, where the pirate fell. Perhaps his soul still haunts the deep. And so ends the tale of Blackbeard, pirate, captain, and legend. May his shadow forever linger on the tide. Soft roll of waves. A final bell tolls. Fade to silence.